Hello everyone. Welcome back to the second lecture series of Faculty Development Program on Academic Research Writing. So this Faculty Development Program has been organized by the TLC Ramanujan College and Institute of Home Economics, University of Delhi under the plan of the Ministry of Education, Government of India. So you must have known me already. I am Professor IndraNath Chatterjee. I'm working in the Department of Computer Engineering, Tongmyong University in South Korea. So here I am going to give you a talk on the topic called the giving effective responses to the reviewers' comments. So this title is a little bit tricky because it sounds tricky already from the title. Because why should we learn to give responses to the reviewers' comments? How important it is? So we will learn everything in this process. So as per the plan, so we will going to learn everything in four different parts. So I have divided my lectures, this series of lecture into four part: part one, part two, part three, and part four. So you have to follow each of this part to understand the entire process, and you have to follow me for any kinds of obstacles you face while you are giving responses to the reviewers' comments. So if you still any problem, you have any question, you can reach out to me at my email ID given over here. Okay. So now let's start the second lectures on the giving effective responses to the reviewers' comments. So first, we have to understand that what is peer review. So we all have accustomed with this word, right? We are all known this word that the peer reviewed, because we know like this journal is peer reviewed, or whether these publication house conduct the peer review process. Yes, this peer review uh, is a very well known term these days. So what is peer review? Peer review is a kind of evaluation technique, so where the experts in different fields, different domain, different areas assess the quality, validity, and significance of the research manuscript before they are published. So that means they actually the judge of our work. They actually do their decision that whether our work is publishable or it is acceptable or not. So, when we call the peer review, what does it actually mean? Peer review means the review by the peers. Now, what is peer? In general term, peer means friends. But here, it's not actually the friend. So, your friend cannot review your paper. So, there is a conflict of interest over there. If you know a person personally, if you know a person by a conference, if you have worked with a person already, if you have collaborated with a person in some sense or other, if that person is from your same institute, same department, then uh, he or she cannot review your paper. So there's the glitch of the word peer review. So peer review means the peer in research. So who are the peer in research? For example, you are working in the area of neuroscience. So who are your peer? Your peers will be the co-researchers or the researchers who have written papers on the same topic, but they should not collaborated with you before. They have no paper with you before. So and they must have from the different institution. So when this paper, for example, you are writing a paper on the human brain analysis of a schizophrenia patients. So when you are working on the human brain analysis of schizophrenia patient, you have to look for the other researchers who also work for the human brain analysis of schizophrenia patients. So how would you find that? It's very easy. So you go to the Google Scholar, you go to the Scopus, you search the topic, you see different kinds of papers. So in different papers, if that paper suits your area of research, you find that name, you find the affiliation, and you can suggest that name or affiliation to the journal for a peer review process. So that person, when you submit a paper to a particular journal, that person will actually actually judge your paper, actually decide whether the paper needs any kinds of improvement, whether the paper needs revision, whether the paper is in acceptable form, or the paper is just a trash and it needs to be rejected. So that kind of decision should be taken by the peer reviewer. So this peer reviewer are actually the how can I say, like they are the actual the judgment holder of your paper. Okay. So when you are doing a peer review process by a journal, so it serves as a crucial quality control mechanism in the scientific community, which ensure that only rigorous and impactful research gets published. So that means every journal conduct the peer review process. So when a journal conduct a peer review, meticulously they check the paper, they check for the crucial quality control in the scientific community, and they ensure that only the rigorous and impactful research gets published. That means no trash paper, no bad paper should get published anyway. So anyway, whenever your paper is under peer review, that means that your paper will get improved in every way possible. What are the different kinds of peer review process? So peer review process can be different kinds of. So first one is a single blind peer review. The second one is a double blind peer review. And the third one is a new one called open peer review. So I will discuss about the open peer review in details in the coming slides. But here we will discuss about the single blind peer review and double blind peer review. So blind means where the review should be anonymous. Single blind means it's a single-sided anonymous. Double blind means double-sided anonymous. So how does it work? So when we talk about the single blind peer review process, so in this type of review process, the reviewers can see the name of the authors. But when you get the revision, when you get the review request, I mean the revision request of your paper, then you cannot see the name of the reviewer. That means who has reviewed your paper. That is completely kept anonymous. That is completely hidden. And but the reviewer can identify the author, the reviewer can identify the affiliation, the reviewer can identify the lab from where your study came. So that's the process of a single blind peer review. What is double blind peer review? The double blind peer review is a process where the full transparency is there. That means neither the reviewer can see the name of the author, their affiliation, their labs, their country, etc., as well as the author, when they get the revision request, they cannot see the name of the reviewers, as same with single blind peer review. So that means in both kind of peer review, in single blind or double blind peer review, in any way the author cannot see the reviewer's name, that who has reviewed their paper. But in single blind peer review, the reviewer can see the author's name, affiliation, address, everything. So now what's the funda between two? So generally some journals prefer double blind peer review so that there will be a full transparency. That means because sometimes what happened, if for example, if you are a reviewer of a journal, you receive two papers from two different journals or maybe from same journal. One paper has been submitted by any engineering college or maybe private, any small engineering college in India, and one has been submitted by the people from MIT in USA. So as soon as you get the papers in your hand, like after the journal assign you as a reviewer, you set up your mind that this MIT paper must be good. This this engineering college paper must be bad. So this kind of biasness actually cause error sometimes, because although it is obviously incomparable that MIT paper will be good because they cannot publish paper, or they do not publish paper unless that's a good work. So but still there can be a very good research in the small institutions as well. So this kind of biasness the reviewers actually does. So whenever a reviewer receives any kind of review request, they first check the what kind of authors are they, which country they are from, which institution they are from. So it causes a kind of biasness in their mind. So while they are reviewing the work, they have something in their mind called bias, and which cause a like a biased uh, review process. But in a double blind peer review, which some of the or some of the journals prefer. In double-blind peer review, the reviewers cannot see any form of information of the authors. So when you submit a paper in a double peer review process, double-blind peer review process, so what happened? You have to submit the paper to the journal with hiding your name, affiliation, acknowledgement, funding resource, and everything. So in any place of your paper, there should not be any mention of your name, affiliation, country, or any way that your appearance can appear. Okay. So that's how the double blind peer review happened. So yes, some people said that double blind peer review is better than single blind peer review because there is no chance of biasness. But some people said no, the reviewer should understand that from where this paper comes from, because sometimes it causes the malpractice of research. Because, for example, I have copy paste entire paper from some kind of literature, and I have rewritten in my own way, and then I publish that paper. So the journal reviewer can not identify that whether that thing has been really written by the author or not. But some kind of biasness should be there to judge the work, because it causes the expectation. For example, if some mediocre work has been done from a small institution, then it is expected, okay, we understand that they have no search facility, they have no search infrastructure, they have tried hard to achieve these things, so it's really appreciable. But if I get a mediocre work from a MIT or a Caltech or some big university in US, then what happened? We have an expectation for them. So that means we can decide that no, this paper is not of a good quality from an institution like that. So this kind of biasness is also sometimes needed. So it's a controversial thing. Some prefer the single blind peer review process where reviewers should know about the authors and their details, and some journals prefer the double blind review process where the reviewers and authors are both kept anonymous to each other. And in open peer review process, the identity of the reviewer and the authors are completely disclosed. So I'll tell you how it works. So when the thing comes to the anonymous and disclosed review, the first thing which comes in mind is the anonymous review. Because when anonymous, there are always a pros and cons. I just discussed with you before that in the anonymous peer review process, the pros is that it reduces the biasness, it reduces the biases that based on author reputation or institutional affiliation. But there is a bad thing, that is a potential for biased judgment, as reviewers may not accountable for their comments. So when it is anonymous review, sometimes it is good that they cannot judge on based on your reputation, based on your institutional affiliation. But also in the same time, it is bad that sometimes the reviewers should be accountable for their comments, that some papers from a very big professors and very big researcher, but maybe some they make some small mistakes, but sometimes reviewers cannot understand that they should say like this kind of harsh words or something like that. So they should be careful. That's the cons of an anonymous review. And what are the pros and cons of a disclosed review? The pros of a disclosed review is that it allows for direct communication between the authors and reviewers, and it fosters a constructive dialogue. So when it is disclosed, then the authors and reviewers can understand that okay, we have given the review as a reviewer, and we understand that this institution and these authors have tried their hard to achieve these things, and with their limited resource, limited infrastructure, so it's quite appreciable. But the cons is also there, which actually cause the possibility of conflict arising from personal and professional relationship. For example, sometimes what happens, sometimes unfortunately some papers get assigned to a reviewer, where the reviewer has some personal or professional conflict with the authors. So in that case, if they see, this papers comes from the Dr. X and Professor Y, so oh, yes, is such a bad person, or I know them personally, uh, they have commented on me on something or like that. Then what happened? They just reject the paper without even review. So that's actually the concept of a disclosed review. So I think you can now really understand the difference between the anonymous review and the disclosed review. So they are basically they both have pros and cons. Now comes the concept of open peer review. So what is open peer review? Open peer review is a very transparent process of the traditional peer review system used in the academic publishing. So it uh, all the identity of the reviewer as well as the authors are disclosed. The reviewers can see the author's name as well as the authors can see the reviewer's name, that who has reviewed their paper. So it is not like the single peer review process. Single blind peer review process, reviewers can see the author, but still author cannot see. But in open peer review process, author can also see that who has reviewed their paper. So it actually help in promoting accountability and transparency. The review reports are also open and published with the paper. That means when the paper is accepted and published, all the review reports are also published. So that helps the reader, maybe 1 year, 2 years later, they can understand that how the paper was in its initial form, how the improvement have happened, and how the paper is now being considered for acceptance. So this kind of review report is actually helpful for the transparency. And next is the interaction. Open peer review encourages the dialogue among the words among the reviewers, authors, and the scientific community. It fostering the collaboration and constructive criticism. So what happened in open peer review process? Anyone from the reader section also can comment on the paper, and if the author wants, they can reply to that particular comment. The reviewer, if they want, they can reply to that particular comment. So it's a kind of completely constructive criticism way where the paper's improvement is the main idea. And the open preprints. So some platform facilitated the open peer review process on a preprint server that allow the feedback and revision to occur before formal publication. That means whenever you publish something on a preprint server like archive or something, in the same time the open peer review process started. That's anyone can review that paper and post their comment. Anyone can review your work, and they can post their suggestion or recommendation in the uh, uh, preprint server. So what happened then? Then you can try to improve that paper based on their suggestion and recommendation, and thereby it's actually improving your paper. So what are the advantages of open peer review? So so there are both advantages and disadvantages of open peer review. So advantages are more. So let us understand that what are the advantages of peer review process. So in open peer review process, it increases the transparency. So open peer review enhances the transparency by making the review process publicly accessible. It's That comes the terms of accountability. It identifying the reviewers and authors that helps establish the accountability for the evaluation and publication of scholarly work. And then the collaboration. The open peer review promotes collaboration and engagement while the scientific community. So that means when you publish a paper and you got open peer reviewed, with the reviewer, you can understand, you can know the name of the reviewer, you can collaborate with them later. You can ask them that, okay, you have reviewed my paper, so do you have any more suggestion for the further work, what we can collaborate, we can work on that. So it actually cause and it actually enrich the entire scientific community. But still, there are some disadvantages in the open peer review process, such as the biasness. There is a risk of bias or conflict of interest when the reviewers' identities are disclosed. That means the reviewers sometimes think that my identity will be disclosed, so I should not write the harsh comments, or I should not write the strong comments in the peer review. Early career researcher have some face some problem in the open peer review because for the reputation of your research career. So this kind of concerns are there in the open peer review process, but overall the advantages are more in the open peer review process. So the benefit of the peer review process. So when it comes to the benefit of the peer review process, this can be an open peer review, this can be a closed peer review. I mean to say the single blind peer review or the double blind peer review. So whatever it is. So when it comes to the benefit of the peer review process, it ensures the accuracy and reliability of the uh, paper. That means the peer review helps to identify the error, mistakes, or weakness in the research and help them for a more constructive and improving the paper. It improves the quality of the research as well. So when the reviewer gives a constructive feedback from for the authors, it helps the author to refine their work and leading to a higher quality publication. So that means when the reviewer actually helps you to do some more experiment on that particular thing, it actually enrich your paper, and whenever it will be published, it will get more citation, more popularity. So the peer review process facilitates the knowledge sharing process. So peer review allows researcher to contribute collaborative uh, research ideas, collective knowledge of their field, and ensure the dissemination of the valuable research outputs. So it helps in various ways. So these are the peer review benefits. So which kind of review is more preferable and comparative? So I will show you 5 different points in which you can understand that what is more beneficial, the traditional peer review process, means the single blind or double blind, or the open peer review process. So in terms of transparency, traditional peer review process have limited transparency, but in open peer review process have high transparency. That means it is more acceptable, more recommended. So in terms of accountability, traditional peer review has a limited accountability, but open peer review has enhanced accountability. That means it's more preferable open peer review. Feedback quality. Traditionally, it's a confidential feedback, and in open, it's a publicly available feedback. So it's generally the traditional way of confidential feedback is more preferred than the publicly available feedback, because if some reviewers just give some harsh words or like reject your paper or just say this work is really bad, then it will be always there with your paper. So it cannot be deleted, cannot be undone. So that's why the confidential feedback is more preferable. Next, the collaboration. In collaboration, obviously, the traditional have limited access, but in terms of the open peer review process, the collaboration, the opportunity of the collaboration is more. In terms of the biasness, the traditional have more potential of bias, whereas the open peer review process identify the bias and conflict of interest. So thereby, in conclusion, we can say that while both system of the traditional peer review process and open peer review process have their advantages and disadvantages, open peer review process enhance transparency, accountability, and collaboration. It enables the readers to identify the quality of the review process, and it helps to grow the scientific community. So, however, after careful consideration is required that whatever you want, if you want a process in open peer review, or you want a single blind peer review, or you want a double blind peer review, it's up to the author. And before choosing the journal, so you have to check in the journal website that what kind of peer review process they are conducting. So it depends upon the journal choice. So if you choose the journal based on their peer review process, so you can achieve your desired results. So I hope that you have understand the concept of peer review. We will discuss more and more on it in the second part of this lecture series. So I hope you enjoyed and understood all the things being discussed. So if you still have any problem, any question, you can email me anytime. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next part of this lecture.